right, so let's start with the Nokar mantra. Om Namo Arihantanam, Om Namo Siddhanam, Om Namo Ayariyanam, Om Namo Vachayanam, Namo Loe Savasahunam, Eso Pancha Namo Karo, Sarva Pava Pranasana, Mangalanam Sha Sarvesim, Paramam Havai Mangalam, Paramam Havai Mangalam. So the last time we talked about meditation, we talked about the benefits. So we all know about the benefits, and despite near unanimous agreement about the benefits of meditation, I think that the reason you all haven't started practicing meditating every day in your life is because it's still a little bit intimidating and you still kind of don't know what you're doing. So today I would like to discuss 9 different types of meditation, just to give you a flavor of what's out there, and just to prove to you that there's some kind of meditation out there for you. So this is based off a book, Practical Meditation. I don't have the author here with me. I thought I wrote it down, but I will find that for you, and I'll send you a message if you want to go into further detail. So we're going to talk less about the benefits of meditation and more about these 9 different types and what they are. So the first one is Zazen breath awareness, observing your breath. I think a lot of us know about this. It is an exercise in controlling your awareness by focusing on your breath. Now, it may seem very easy, but it's very hard to focus on your breath. It's very hard to focus on one thing at a time for a long time, no matter what it is. And what you learn is, by observing your breath, you learn that the present moment is all there is. There's no past and there's no future. And that happiness is not a destination, we know that, but it's not even a journey. It is a choice that you make in each moment. In each moment, you can make a choice to be happy or not, and it is up to you. And that's what we mean by when we say happiness is on the inside, not on the outside. Of course, we all know that we can't get happiness by external material things, but we can't get happiness, in our family, because we can't control our family and they have their own lives to live. We can't get happiness in our relationships with other people. We can only make a choice to be happy, and that's what that means.
Can you make a choice to have someone else be happy?
No, cannot. Absolutely not. It's not within your control. And that is a big problem with my oldest daughter, right? She is one of these people that it's hard for her to be happy with whatever she has, okay? And if you have a troubled soul like that, if you don't learn to go along, to roll with the punches that life gives you, and to kind of go along with the flow of life, you will have a very hard life. We know some people like that. And I'm deeply afraid that my eldest daughter is going to have a very hard life because she will not accept the injustices of the world, which are many, right? And which happen to her quite frequently in her mind. But I cannot control that. Despite my best intentions and my best hope for her to have, I can show her the path. That is as much as I can do. I can show her the path and teach her how to walk on it, but it's up to her to walk on the path, and it's up to her to choose to be happy in every moment.
Can I ask or introduce a topic that I know it's not for today?
Sure.
But what is life?
What is life? Life is a brief opportunity to do nirdra. Human life.
That was that.
Human life. Human life is a brief opportunity to do nirdra.
I like the term brief.
Yeah. Yeah. So today we're talking about meditation. Last week we discussed, or the time we talked about it before, we just talked about the benefits. So I want to skip talking about the benefits, and I want to try to find the meditation that's right for every one of you, because I believe that is not the reason that you have accepted meditation into your life and into your heart. So we're talking about breath awareness, number 1. So what you do for breath awareness, you feel your breath in your lungs expand and contract. You avoid changing or controlling your breath. It doesn't matter. You don't try to make it deep. If it's deep, it's deep. If it's shallow, it's shallow. You don't try to do anything. You just observe and you feel the breath going in and out. Sometimes you can count to 10. Sometimes that helps you focus on it. You count your breaths to 10 and then you start over again. And then you know when you've kind of messed up is when you forget which number you're on. When you do that, you say, and don't beat yourself up over it, you just say, oh, I lost my attention, I'm going to move it back, and you start over with 1. Okay? You notice the movement of your body during each breath, expansion and contraction of the lungs. And then that's it. Okay? So if I was talking to somebody very new at meditation and they heard all the promises we talked about, oh, you can do this and that and it'll change your life. And then I tell them what it is, they'll say, that's it? I can change my life just by doing that? Yes, you can change your life just by doing that. Because when you realize that happiness is a choice you make in each moment and that you are not the author of your thoughts, you can realize that you have a place you can go to, a shelter in your mind where you don't have to worry about anything. And that is very powerful. And the reason that that's very powerful is, imagine, let's say what's a good example? Let's say you're a really great cook, or your wife is a really great cook. And then you go out and you have a meal, it's a bad meal. But you don't really care because you can go home and have a great one, right? So you're not worried about it. So that gives you some kind of power. Okay, or let's say you live in a very safe neighborhood. Then you go out and then you're in a kind of sketchy part of town. Well, you're worried for a little bit, but you're not too worried because you know when you go home, you live in a great neighborhood. If somebody doesn't feel safe at home, they don't have that power, right? So then it relaxes your mind, you worry about different things less. Now imagine there is a place where there is no pain for you, where you didn't have to feel bad, you didn't have to feel good, and you can access it at any time in any location. Well, wouldn't you feel amazing? Wouldn't the injustices of everyday life melt away? Because let's say somebody cut you off in traffic. Who cares? I have a place that I can go to that's pain-free. Let's say you lost your job. Who cares? I have a place where I can go to that I understand that it will not bother me. That's what gives you power in your life. That's what makes you able to roll with life's punches, because you are aware that you can go to that place. And that place is meditation. Today we're talking about meditation.
One thing you mentioned about the breath, watching your breath.
Yes.
And as simple as it is,
it sounds simple.
Sounds simple, right?
It's easy to say. It's hard to do.
One of the annoying things that watch does, that it reminds you that you need to take a breath, and I say annoying in a fashion that it comes up every so often, unless you say dismiss it or close it for the end of the day. But every time I follow it, initially I did it more because it was a new watch and I was trying to do it. I felt afterwards that it's a different feeling. That you do it and it just asks you to inhale, exhale like 3 times, and after that you feel different. You feel almost not the full reset, but some part of your thoughts and everything has reset, and it works. I don't do it as often as I should. I snooze it or dismiss it for the day, but I think one of the things one of the pros of this, and as you mentioned, it made me hard again, and I'm going to try again, but it's something that the digital watches does nowadays. It's to remind you to take a breath.
The metric side of it, just to add, is every time, just annual checkup, go to the doctor, you're a bit nervous, for at least I am, for whatever reason, and the blood pressure shows up a little bit unusually high. Yeah. And then inadvertently the nurse will say, well, just take few deep breaths, and then you tend to relax and immediately it shows within normal range. So it's always, for me, the second reading that's entered into the system.
They call that white coat syndrome, right? You get nervous when the guy with the white coat shows up. So the second one, we're going to try to find a meditation that's right for each of you. So if you didn't like that one, don't worry, we got 8 more.
So what's that called? The first one?
Zazen Breath Awareness Meditation.
Zazen.
Yes. Z-A-Z-E-N. The second one is open awareness of surroundings. this is what we covered in our mindfulness class. Okay, so what you do is you notice the sensations on your skin, the feeling of the air around you. You bring the awareness to the space above your head. Bring your awareness to the side. Notice subtle vibrations coming up from the floor. Notice any sounds or movement behind you to the right. Move your awareness and move it all around your environment. Your eyes can be closed or open, but this is your open awareness of your surroundings. So what this does for you is this allows you to practice to be more mindful of your environment. A lot of times when we're in the car, we're just focused on the car in front of us and not kind of around us, or we're focused on the radio because that's really all that's important. But if you practice this, you'll be focused on things very far away, very much in your field. Because remember, our eyes take in everything, but it is our brain that gives certain objects special importance or not. And a lot of times we discount things that are not moving or that our brain deems are unimportant. The next one is mindful observation. This is one where you lock your eyes on an object and you study the object, and the meditation is about studying the object. So remember, if you've ever had this experience where you saw something ordinary for the first time again, or with fresh eyes, that's what we're trying to emulate. It's like if you remember being a kid and everything is new and everything is interesting because you don't know what's important and what's not important about the object, right? So this is kind of, we're trying to bring ourselves into the present moment by studying an object. So what we do is, first you have to pick an object. So sometimes some people pick an apple, sometimes some people pick the flame of a candle. It doesn't really matter. You can pick something simple or something very complex. It doesn't really matter. But you become relaxed first, and then you start to look at the object. And you look at the size and the color and the shape and the texture, and don't think about, for example, where it came from or what you can do with it. Don't think about that. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to look at it and just let its properties fill our mind, the properties of the object. And try to get it so that you are fully immersed in seeing the object and seeing all parts of the object and how they differ from one another. So just like during the breath, when you're counting, that's how you know when you've wandered away and you refocus. So when your eyes start to move to something else, that's how you know when it's time to refocus back on the object. And also when your thoughts start moving to something else other than the properties, the sight properties of the object, that's how you know to bring it back. So that's called observation meditation. The next one, mindful eating. Hey, come on in. Oh, you're going to perform for us?
Yeah, why not?
Today we are talking about meditation, and we're going to try to find the right one, the one that's right for you. So we talked about breath meditation, awareness of your surroundings, and observing an object. So now we're going to talk about mindful eating. This is learning. A lot of times we eat when we're distracted. We're watching TV, we're listening to the radio. We're not really concentrating on what we're eating or how we're eating. But to do this, we're going to fully concentrate on what we're eating in front of us. And to start off with, don't start off with this at your dinner. Okay, start off with this with one thing. Let's say a fruit. Okay? So what you're going to do is, first you look at it. Because you always eat with your eyes first, right? And that sets your expectation about how it's going to taste. So first you take a couple minutes and you look at the fruit. Let's say it's a banana. You look at the fruit. Okay? Just like we talked about with our observation meditation. You just look at it. Okay? And you just look at the properties. Next, you pick it up and you touch it. Okay? And because you want to wake up all of your senses, right? So your sight and then you touch it. And then you do that for a couple minutes, and then you smell it, because that's your anticipation of eating too, right? You smell the fruit. Okay, and then let's say we're talking about a banana, right? So now we peel it, okay? And then look at it and how it looks peeled. Okay, so now we take a bite. So you close your eyes and you take a bite and you chew it and you see how it feels in your mouth and the various textures in your mouth. And then you swallow, and then you follow it all the way down, right? And all the way down, and you visualize it going down your esophagus and hitting your stomach. And how do you feel about that? And then you repeat. You repeat with the next bite. Don't look at it again. But you repeat with the next bite. And the way I described something simple, it sounds very complicated, right? But that's how complicated it is. That is how much it can absorb you if you try to do mindful eating. And so this has a bunch of benefits too, especially if you're trying to control what you eat. You will definitely eat less. You will be more satisfied after eating, and it'll have a lot of great properties for you if you practice mindful eating. So once you do that with the piece of fruit, then you can definitely do that with your meals every day, right? So that's a fun one. So if you are not, if this all sounded boring to you, right, watching your breath or looking at an object for 10 minutes, then try this mindful eating one and see if you can wake up your senses. And remember, it's about bringing yourself into the present moment, because the present moment is all there is, and the present moment is the only opportunity we have to be happy.
Isn't meditation is basically you don't want to think about anything and just be in one sense, but when you talk about eating and the other stuff, you're introducing other senses. How is one meditating then?
So one is meditating because first you are aware that you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts happen independently of your awareness, and you're trying to focus your awareness on different things. So sometimes, as we'll see later, sometimes you do focus your awareness on your thoughts. Sometimes you focus your awareness on your emotions. Sometimes you focus your awareness on your breath. And then here we're talking about focusing your awareness on your eating.
So instead of like 1,000 things going in the background, it's better to focus on one thing, and rather than 1,000 things still coming in your background.
Yeah, they will still occur, but you're training yourself to let them go if they do occur, right? Because remember that you are not your thoughts, right? You are the person that observes your thoughts. You are the awareness, your soul, because you are your soul, and your soul is the one that is observing your thoughts. So you are trying to bring an awareness that is not within thinking. Now that sounds crazy, right? That there is something about experience that is not thinking. And that sounds like preposterous, right? Like, how can you experience something without thinking? But I'm telling you that it's there. There is such a thing as experience without thinking. And that's where we want to get to. So the next one, number 5, is observing your emotions. So just like observing your breath, when you feel your breath, you observe your emotions, but you don't do anything about it. You certainly don't act on them, but you don't think about it and get caught up in them. You just experience how they feel, okay, and how those emotions feel. And you consider that emotions are not you either, right? So let's see. So how do we do that? Okay, so when you sit down to meditate, you just think about, well, how are you feeling right now? Are you bored right now? Are you curious right now? Are you hopeful about what this meditation will accomplish? And how does it feel to feel that, okay? So once you have a sense of that, then you let it go. And you see if a new emotion comes up. And one will. There's one right around the corner, right? So you kind of experience this, and what this will do for you is this will let you know that it will prove to you that all emotions pass, right? And that they cannot control you. In fact, they cannot control you because they are not you. You only let them control you in as much as you decide to. Okay? And so this of course is incredible for us because emotions are our enemy. right? And so if we only give emotions as much power as we decide to, then we can take control of our lives by observing our emotions. So the next meditation is walking meditation. So this is not how it sounds at first. This is not, oh, you take a walk and you contemplate nature and you think about how beautiful it is. I thought that was that, but this is not that at all, okay? So this is meditating about movement, and specifically walking, okay? So most of us are used to doing things automatically, like walking, cleaning, doing the laundry. We do things without even being aware of them. We're like worried about our problems, we're in the future, or we're worried about the things that we did, we're living in the past. But we need to, this is about mindfully moving, okay? So what you do is you stand up and you feel, you bring awareness to your body, what the mind-muscle connection is. Does anybody know what the mind-muscle connection is? So it's not immediately obvious how intention turns into movement. I mean, it's immediately, we can experience it very nicely, but we don't really understand how it works that well, and why in some people it doesn't work, and athletes specifically want it to work incredibly well. Okay, so that is called the mind-muscle connection. How an order from your brain translates into movement is very difficult to comprehend, and it's a minor miracle we do every day. Okay, so we're going to concentrate on the mind-muscle connection. So we're going to stand up and we're going to put our hands behind our back, and we're going to intentionally take a step. That means we're going to direct our foot to stand up, direct our foot to move forward, direct our heel to come down and roll on the foot, and direct our other foot to stand up again. And we're going to keep doing that for about 20 steps. Or what you do is you decide on a point where you're going to turn around. Then you're going to direct your body to turn around and do the same thing over again. Now that sounds incredibly complicated, just like the eating one sounded complicated. And that's because it is complicated. It's extremely complicated if you think about each step. But none of us thinks about walking. We just walk, right? But now we're going to think about walking and experience walking and nothing else. So how do you know if your mind is wandering? When you stop directing your feet to do that and you just end up walking back and forth, you start looking at the surroundings, or you start thinking about your problems. When you stop directing your feet to lift up and directing your foot to step down, and you stop directing your hands to swing, so that's how you do that. So 20 paces, you turn around and you come back, and you do that over and over for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however, 30 minutes, however long you decided that meditation is going to be. So this is about mindfully moving your body. Okay, so number 7, body scan meditation. Many people are familiar with this. This is a good and fun one. So you close your eyes and you bring your awareness from the top down or the bottom up, whichever one you want to do. A lot of times we don't feel how it feels to be, how some particular part of our body feels unless we move our mental awareness down, right? Like, unless I tell you to, well, feel the sensation in your left foot, well, you're not going to really be doing that. So you're going to move that awareness to different parts of your body and notice how you feel. Sometimes you feel like you got a little pain in somewhere and you focus on that. Sometimes you feel a little itchy, okay? You don't really do anything about anything. You just notice the physical sensations of your body. How does it feel for your legs and a butt to be sitting on the ground? As you know, is your back straight? How does it feel like that? And the interesting thing about this one is that you don't realize how much tension you hold in your body unless you do that. Unless you learn to relax each muscle individually, right? And imagine if you could. Now I told you we don't pay much attention to our body because we don't, but imagine if you did. Imagine if you didn't have to move your awareness down to your right foot to think about it. Imagine if you were experiencing your body, all parts of your body at all the time. That would be incredible. That will be something that you have never experienced before and may not ever experience again. And so that's kind of what we want to get to. That would be like some ultimate goal, right? What would it be like to experience all parts of our body at all the time? So that's called body scan meditation. Questions on that or anything we talked about? We're talking about 9 types of meditation. We want to find the one that's right for you. I think that the reason we haven't accepted meditation in our life is because we don't know that there's so many types, and that it's like exercise, right? If you get bored of one, you do another. There's running, swimming, lifting, cycling. You know, if you get bored of one, you do another. And the goal is to just keep on doing that. Or if you find yourself, you know, really into one, you could spend your whole life doing that. Same thing with meditation, right? When you get bored of eating, then you do walking. And when you get bored of walking, then you do body scan. Or if you find one that really helps you or you really like, then you do that for the rest of your life.
When I see so many different methods, this is the first time I'm seeing it. It seems like each and everything you do, you can meditate in it.
Exactly.
So, and every time it's like what I see in these examples is being in present, whether it's a breath, whether it's walking, whether it's eating. So, isn't being present is a way to meditate? And
Yes.
I say presence is not just physical but mental as well.
That's right. That's right. So it's bringing mindfulness into our lives. So the difference is a little bit subtle. So the difference between mindfulness and meditation is what? Does anybody remember? Go ahead.
Soul and body differential, right? Because part of meditation is also physical, right?
Right.
And mindfulness is really about your soul side of being really internal thoughts and trying to focus on those, right?
Being aware of your surrounding at all the time.
Yeah.
Mindfulness.
So the difference is intention. In mindfulness, we're trying to do everything with a particular intention, and that is furthering our goals for whatever they may be, and everything is in our life is geared toward that intention. In meditation, we're not talking about intention. In meditation, we're talking about letting go and noticing that we are not our thoughts. We're not intentionally directing our thoughts in certain places. We're noticing that our thoughts and we're letting them go. Or we're noticing our body and we're letting it go. And we're noticing our emotions and we're letting it go. Any questions or comments? You look puzzled.
I think I'll try the breathing last one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so after this we're gonna see who likes what. So number 8 out of 9 is mantra meditation. We focus on there are 2 types. The one you do silently and the one you do out loud. And then within those types there are 2 more types. The one where your mantra has a meaning and the one where your mantra is meaningless. So when you use a mantra with meaning, the thoughts that arise in your brain are usually related to that mantra. And you want that to happen. For example, if your mantra is, I am happy and healthy, then you will have thought in that direction. If you use a mantra without meaning, you are trying to not have any thoughts surrounding the mantra, and just using the mantra like a breath as something to focus on.
What's a non-meaning mantra?
Om, right? If it's a sound like Om,
Does an om have a meaning?
it has come to have a meaning.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do we do? So, okay. So you take a deep breath and you sit down and you feel the vibration in your body. And you make a sound, the sound of your mantra. And you notice the sound as it moves through your body, and you do that a few times. And then you start to say your mantra, inhaling and exhaling. And that's it. Okay, so this was a simple one to describe. This one is called mantra meditation. And the last one we'll talk about today, number 9, is sitting with difficult emotions. So when you're experiencing very difficult emotions, such as guilt, frustration, grief, sadness, anger, loneliness, spite, and shame. This is a little bit different from observing your emotions, because these emotions have the capability to consume you and wreck your whole life. Okay, so the first thing you do is acknowledge how you're feeling, and then try to think of a time when you felt that same emotion and how you overcame it, or something similar, and what you did to overcome it. Was it just the passage of time, or did you, for example, use some logical process to overcome it, or did you get help from family and friends, or did you cry? Did you do nothing? What did you do? And don't tell yourself a story about the emotion. Don't tell yourself, try to explain it away, or try to say that, well, this was whose fault was this? Don't start playing the blame game. Just try to experience the emotion and recognize that it's something that will pass. Let's see. That's that one. I think there were 10. So I think
That was 9.
Yeah, that was 9, but I think there were 10. I think I didn't have the piece of paper, or something went wrong. Ah, here it is. No wonder I didn't have it. Okay. So this is from a book by Benjamin Decker, and the book is called Practical Meditation for Beginners. And so there's a 10th one. Loving kindness meditation. Okay? So sometimes, I don't know if many of you have done drugs or not, but sometimes we get a feeling without drugs that everything in the world is beautiful, and we love every person that we see because they are emanating with love. We are emanating with love, and we love the trees and the earth and nature, and we realize, some people have realized that we're all connected in some way, okay? And that, why should I hurt this person because we're connected? Or why should I step on this ant because we're connected? We're all connected, okay? So this loving kindness meditation is to try to get that feeling throughout your life. So what you do is you sit down, and sometimes you can have a picture, okay? And you have a picture of somebody you love, and you think about the love for that person that you have. And you remember what it's like to have that feeling. Okay, and so next, you do it with somebody a little bit less, you have a little bit less of that natural type of feeling for. Okay, and you think about what it would be like to have that type of feeling for that person. Okay, and then next, you do it with a stranger. You think about a stranger you have no idea about, but you try to develop those feelings for that person. And then next you do it for an animal or a plant or something like that, until you get so good at it that you do it for everything and everybody in your whole life. And this is called loving kindness meditation. So this is also a very popular one. So okay, so we had 10. Any questions on what we talked about?
I have one. In 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, when industry had multitasking was a big term in industry. And I don't know if still everybody thinks. But anyways, in my memories, it was a big term, and everybody's like, ability to do multitask is considered a strength. The more and more I think about it, I think the multitasking is trying to do multiple things at the same time, whereas meditation is doing, or mindfulness is doing one thing and follow it. Mm-hmm. What do you all think about meditation or being mindful and impact of multitasking?
I think that's right. I think it brings a focus, right? But I guess you can be focused on multitasking. Is that right?
I think it's more about even if you're multitasking, you think about your present, what you are doing right now. If you are doing two things, then focus on those two things rather than doing that but thinking on the third thing.
Right.
It's about that.
Right. Yeah. So it's about focusing on what you're doing.
I think here you're right in what you're saying, maybe 10 years ago, but I think that has evolved to be cross-training rather than multitasking. So they want you to know how to do other things,
Yeah.
but they don't want you to do both of those things simultaneously, right? That's
Yes.
if someone is out or you can cover or those type of issues. So I think you're right in what you're saying in that. But I think now it's slightly different. Like, you know, the word multitasking is not really used now, right? You
Agreed.
know?
I guess some I don't know if it was psychological studies or something have proved, and is that the reason kind of people have gone away from that term, because it was like, you know, it was
Yeah.
your interview or something, you talk about, oh, I'm ability to multitask and things like that, and it's not a thing to say anymore. At least I haven't seen that, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah, now it's more like you should be able to switch on and switch off, or basically jump between two tasks very soon. And
Cognitive switching.
yeah, basically within say 10 or 15 minutes, you are able to jump from task A to B, and then you forget about A and you focus on B. As he said, like the focus still has to be on that task which you are doing. The duration is a key here. Whether you're doing it in like 5 minutes or you're doing it in like 20 minutes. So earlier, as you said, 10 years ago, maybe that was like you could do several things in an hour, meaning you could do 4 different. If you're from IT, you're working in a project, you're looking at actually 4 different projects or something like that. I mean, that's really superhuman to have something like that. But yeah, it's expected that as you grow up the ladder, you're able to do at least not just one project, but more than one. Yeah, I would say.
You see, the multitasking, you think in a different angle. No matter which task you do, you need to have the bigger picture at the end of the day, right? So if I'm doing something, there should be some high goal that I have to keep in mind all the time, right? So whether you're working on financial side, operations side, manufacturing side, if you've been asked to do that task, hands-on task, which hands-on task is the multitasking, most of the people think through this, but any task you're doing it at the same time, you're considering some high-level task, which you have to have it at the same time
Yeah.
in order to get where you want to be or where you need to be.
You have to be told what that global goal is. That's the
Correct.
usual issue. You know, you're not being told
Correct.
what the big picture is, right? You're just being told, go run and fix this, right? You know,
Right.
So, the purpose of this is to let you know that there is a meditation out there for you. Just like there is a million different kind of book genres. Someone will enjoy reading some different kind of book genre. There is a meditation genre for you. So what do you think your meditation genre might be? How about you? How about we go this way?
I think it differs. I wouldn't. I've tried the breath one. I mean, not now. I know the name. I've tried the mantra one,
Mm-hmm.
and walking. One example I'll give you. The dignitary who came to do the Paryushan thing this year. He said he gave one of the things was like, okay, before you enter your home for next 3 days, say Naukar mantra right before at the door before you enter it. And I'm like, okay, what's difficult in that? And guess what? How many times I remember to do that? 0. So there are different kind of meditations, and it's being in present, and it's hard to do. So I think now knowing different things, I didn't know there was a mindful eating, so I'll try that as one,
Yeah.
and try to do that. But so far, I think I've practiced breath and mantra. I don't think I've think of other things as meditation yet.
So is doing umbel like mindful eating?
Yes, I think so.
I don't know. I'm asking.
For somebody who's not
with
doing
this
it
definition.
and then decides to do it that day, then probably yes.
So someone that's continually doing it, it's okay. Then
They're probably adjusted to it, or they know what it is, and yeah, to them it could be meditation.
But then they're doing that subconsciously, where they're not focusing on that itself. They're doing it in a way that it just happens, right? Just like you're walking right now, talking right now. So if you're doing continuously, that's where it's going to fall at some point.
How about you, Neil? Which one's right for you?
I think I've tried a lot of these different ones, but
Mhm.
the way I look at it, meditation for me personally is how do I incorporate it into my own life?
Right.
Given how busy we are, and kids and call and work and whatnot. So I don't think we talked about this, but this is my meditation. This is driving meditation.
Oh, okay, great.
When I drive, I meditate. I don't talk to anybody. I don't have the radio on. I don't. I just focus on driving and I let everything else go. So that's my real form of meditation is while I drive. I do the long commutes to the hospital back and forth.
Yeah.
It's the best time to meditate for me.
How about you, Parag?
So no talk radio for you?
No, well, I do.
Which one sounds interesting? Which might you try?
Well, I have, I go for a walk / run every day. And so I always thought it was very therapeutic for me when I'm walking. But I do think a lot about other things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what the market did today,
Yeah.
what the sports scenario is. But I'm walking.
Yeah.
I'm walking, but I'm thinking about all these things. But it is therapeutic. I find it very calming. I don't carry my cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am by myself. But so that's the one I have tried, and it works for me. The one that I find interesting is the eating part. The eating one. I wasn't here. I heard you mention it. So we tend to eat and watch TV and do other things, not focus on eating. Right. And I think that's interesting because what we are trying to do over the next 2 weekends is to, the eating part where we are saying it's just nourishment. Don't focus too much on the food part.
Right.
But at the same time, here we are saying it is a meditative thing, so focus on what you're eating. So it's kind of contradictory, but I want to tell my kid, focus on the food, not on the TV. Let's shut the TV off.
I think it's a false contradiction, and I would think that it would actually be congruent, because when we say focus on the food, we don't take enjoyment in the taste. Okay? The food is the fuel. It's not that you eat without thinking because food is only fuel. We can focus on our bland food and focus on the experience of the eating, right? But that doesn't mean that it has to be tasty and we have to pursue delicious food for the sake of pleasuring our senses.
True, but I didn't mean to say it has to be tasty. I'm just saying focus.
It helps when it's tasty. The focus is very direct.
Oh, you could be eating a salad for all you know.
Right.
It's like one is looking at the TV and just, it's like you have no concept of what you're doing.
Right.
Well, I just bring that up, but I think that's interesting.
Right. How about you, Harsh? Thanks for coming again this week.
So I tried the one about counting your breaths, and I always fail in that, and after 5 minutes I forget the count, and then, but at least after 10 minutes I remember I forget the count and I had to get back.
Right.
So some way it's kind of effective, but it's not worked for me. I tried the body sensation as well. That is okay. I think the walking one, I think that would be more beneficial for me to, at least because there are so many things which you have to keep on judging. Probably keep yourself busy in that rather than
Right. So one thing about the breath one, and you don't have to do this, is the first thing I would tell you is, if when you find your mind wandering and you bring it back to the breath, don't beat yourself up for it. It's not like you failed the exercise. In fact, you succeeded in the exercise because you noticed your mind was wandering and you brought it back to your breath. So it's like lifting weights in that each time you succeed, you get stronger. So the more it wanders and the more you bring it back, you're getting better and better. So don't think of it like a bad thing or think of it that it did nothing to you. Think of it like a great thing that you noticed. And so and then you're not trying to do it a certain amount of times. You're just trying to do it for the 10 minutes or 15 minutes that you have. And then once you keep practicing, I think that if you'll start to open up a little space between your thoughts and your awareness of your thoughts. And as you get better and you recognize that space for what it is, that's exactly what we're talking about here, a choice that you make to think about things, that space will get wider and wider and wider as you try to do it. How about you, Chintan? Which one sounded interesting to you?
Well, personally, my name itself is meditation. So it's just now giving all these different types remembering those types as I follow that in my day-to-day activities. So I know I've done it all. It's just while you were talking, I was associating that. So just follow all.
That's great. And so you said you wanted to try the breath one. You thought that might be good for you.
Yeah, I've done the just Om, and
Uh-huh.
my mind does wander off.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, I've done breathing with like deeps, and then doing that. So we'll try this a little more.
Right. And
Counting
so
and stuff. Yeah.
and so with the breath one, you don't focus on taking deep breaths. Okay, it's just however it is, however you're feeling that time. If it's shallow, you just notice it's shallow. If it's deep, you notice it's breathe. And one thing that's interesting with the breath one is that you notice how one breath affects the next. If one was particularly shallow, then you notice that, oh, that's why the next one was deep. Or you focus on how your mind wandering has affected your breath. Or you focus on, there are so many things, because it's so complicated, because it's taking in and your body feels different when it's contracting and expanding, and where you notice it. Some people notice it in the throat, some people notice it in the chest, some people notice it in the stomach, and that it is, when you describe it, it sounds like watching paint dry. It sounds like the most boring thing ever, but it is the most interesting thing that you could contemplate. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, so I have tried mantra meditation in the past, but never thought about all these points that we discussed today.
Right.
And somewhere I would say even mindful eating,
Mm-hmm.
especially when the food is not to my taste,
Right.
then I just basically eat it as a fuel, and
Right.
then not think too much about the taste, and just look at the portion that I've got and try to finish that.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that is something which I would further like to continue.
I think you bring up a great point, that subjectivity is only a matter of the brain and expectations. It can be equally as interesting if the food is bad as it is good. You notice how the food is bad. You notice how it tastes on the tongue, that it tastes bad. And it creates an interesting sensation in your mind. Just like if you have a positive emotion or a negative emotion. When you're observing your emotions, those are treated equally, right? You experience it, oh, this is positive. This is how it feels. Why? How is this affecting my thoughts and my body? And a negative one the same way. Look, I'm angry now. How does that feel? Why is it making me feel like that? With the mindful eating one, you notice the texture of a sweet banana, right? Or something like that. But if you have something bitter like a grapefruit, you notice how it makes your tongue tighten up, or you notice how it makes your throat, want to not swallow it. And you're like, oh, that's part of it. So the subjectivity doesn't matter. Whether it's good or bad, whatever your focus is, or even the object. Let's say the object was ugly. Well, why is it ugly? What about it makes it ugly? Why do I think it is ugly? Why am I getting sensations that the object I'm looking at is ugly? So it doesn't matter if it's good or bad in any of these.
I'm also right now doing breathe and mantra ones.
Oh, great.
And it will make my control the emotions.
Oh, yeah. You found that to be the case.
Yeah.
And only control your emotions while you're meditating, or do you have some experience that you're able to control them in your day-to-day life?
In the day-to-day life.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. How about you, Nick? Which one sounded interesting?
They all sounded interesting. I didn't know there were this many of them. So.
I think there's a lot more actually. So I think
thanks for that. But I think that the breath one. So I'm kind of in Neil's boat. I don't do it while I'm driving, but I do it while I'm flying, because there's no disturbance, and the noise that's there. Like I have a problem when I hear something, like my focus goes to that. So in the air, there's like you wear these noise canceling earphones, so it doesn't you're just isolated to go do that. And I think the hardest part is the time, right? So originally it was I don't even know if it was a minute, right? It took. It's shoot, man. It's I look at my watch, I'm hey, this is not right, So as you keep focusing on trying to resolve that time thing where you can actually focus on it longer, I think that helps out. So, you slowly move up for that. The other thing I was going to say is that when we were young and we did this mantra meditation thing, we used to do it outside. And I don't know, but when you guys sleep, like, you know, a lot of people need like blackout, right? They don't want to have sunlight. But the sunlight, while you're meditating, actually, and you close your eyes, it's like piercing through. So the focus goes there rather than everywhere else. I don't know, something to try out if you want. But when we were kids, that's how we learned, you know, to recite the Om like that, right? You know, and how long you can hold that Om for, you know. So that may help.
Mm-hmm. And one thing about people is that we're social animals, right? And the harshest punishment we can have is to be in isolation. That's why they have isolation punishment in prison, where you're by yourself for 24 hours or something like that. But meditation gives you a way to combat that, right? In meditation, you have these hermits or whatever that go in a cave for 3 months, 4 months. They're in isolation, and they love it, right? So if you needed some kind of explanation as to how this will give you self-control, well, look at that. It will make you love something that you're biologically programmed not to love, and that's its control of your life, and that's self-mastery. How about you, Bob? And which one sounded interesting?
It's very few of them. Personally, the breathing one definitely works for me. Mm-hmm. But its variation on that one would be, if I do that one after, let's say, 5 minutes of cardio, and you actually hear your own breath to calm it down, that helps me focus more rather than get out of bed and start doing that. Right. A lot of thought comes in. But if I do some sort of rigorous work to elevate my breath, and then it comes calming it down, that times most effectively works for me. What Neil said is absolutely right. I think, but that the timing for that one, Nikhil, but timing for that one would be, for me, it would be early in the morning, not 10 o'clock sun in your eyes, right? When you were doing the no, it was in the morning. Yeah. Earlier in the morning, so that definitely works.
I just think doing it, I think that, you know, we talk about like focusing on meditating, just focusing, right? But we're focused on the environment around us. Make that a benefit to your meditation rather than making it a detriment, right? Like, you know, you can't be at a club and, you know, try to go meditate, right? Like, I mean, that doesn't work for me, but it may work for someone, you know?
So morning yoga definitely helps on that one, and then the mind to body or the muscles connection one. Same thing while doing the shavasana after the yoga, morning of yoga, that helps get you connected with your body.
Right. Excuse me. And with the mind to muscle connection, one thing you may think about is, well, let's say you're running, right? We've all experienced that. Well, our mind wants us to keep running, but our body is telling us to stop. So now who is going to be the victor, right? That is the mind muscle connection. Or when you're lifting weights, right? You're on the
it's always the body.
When you're lifting weights, right? You're on the 10th repetition, right? It's the hardest one, and your mind wants to lift it, and it's directing the body to lift it. And the body is saying, no, I don't want to lift it. So that mind-muscle connection is what you're exercising. It's how, and it's very complex, and I imagine there's a lot of work around it. What is the correlation between a signal from the brain and the movement in the body? So, questions or comments about anything at all? Anything that we talked about this week?
I think, see, the overall problem is that back at home, to do this, it becomes really difficult.
Right.
There's a lot of distractions.
Right.
I've tried it so many times, and something or the other just bangs in. Okay?
Right.
So I think probably my suggestion would be, we probably in one of the sessions we just try doing it here.
Okay.
Because it's very isolated, right?
Right.
And we can try different techniques.
Okay.
Probably because if I go back at home and start, I know 5-10 minutes, boom, it's something else will come off.
Right. Well, what is that? Like the phone will ring, or your kids will come in, or what is that?
I mean, there's something at home.
No, you gotta tell me, because we gotta work this out.
Kitchen, somebody will ring the bell, somebody will ask for me, some phone will. I mean.
Okay.
endless stuff.
You
It's
should try it around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Or your distraction.
that's a good point. That's a
Let
good
your
point.
distraction be part of that exercise.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's two ways to do it. So I do it when my kids go right to bed because they're going to sleep for a couple of hours before they wake up or crying or something.
Mhm.
And so that's the right time for me. You need to find the right time for you, when you can turn off your phone, when you can lock the door, when if you hear the doorbell, you don't have to go answer it. And you can just be like, oh, the doorbell's ringing, and then you keep going, you know. Or when you hear, you know, if somebody drops a pan in the kitchen or something, you go, oh, somebody dropped it, and then you keep doing what you're doing.
It's
So
like your
you
wife
need to.
calling you know?
That's the end of the game.
But I like that idea. Does anybody want to do that? Does anybody want me to prepare like a guided meditation, and we'll do that together? Does
That's
anybody want to do that?
Idea.
Yeah, we can.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
We can
Well,
do size
one
video.
one thing to that is, and I
Maybe we should try 3 or 4 of these, you know? We'll try the food
No, you
one.
need. I can bring
Next week
some
we'll
of
do
these.
food. Well, next week
Yeah.
we'll do the food one.
Some of these are fun. I can bring 10 apples and we can look at it and we can try it together. Because it sounds crazy. You guys are laughing. It sounds crazy. It is nice. It's a nice experience, you know. If you want to do it together, we can, instead of talking about it, that's
let's
great.
try it.
Let's do it, you know. I like that idea.
Does anybody use the Mindspace app? Anybody use
Yeah, I do. I use Headspace,
it?
yeah.
Or Headspace?
Yeah.
Yeah, Headspace. That's another potential. We could all download that and use that at the
Right.
class too.
Right.
What does it do?
It's a guided meditation, and I highly recommend it if you've been having trouble with distraction and with meditation. I highly recommend it because you don't have to think, because there's a lot of questions to start with, and they answer all the questions like, oh, what should my hands be doing, and what posture should I have, and focusing on the breath, what does that mean, you know, and counting, do I count the inhale and the exhale, or do I count that as one, or there's a lot of those basic types of questions, and it answers all of that right at the very beginning. So I definitely recommend it, and it's free. You get a certain amount free, and then if you decide you like it, you can pay for different ones.
I also wanted to say, Samyik is the way I think about it as guided meditation.
Exactly. Right.
I mean, it's a 48 minutes, and all the distraction you mentioned. Basically, your wife to your child, everybody knows you're doing Samyik, so they can't distract you.
That's a very good
I mean, it's very quickly. I mean, my kids even realize that nobody can. I mean, my daughter can't touch me when I'm in Samyik. So it's a method that's given, and now it's just thinking of it. That's the reason to do it. Maybe that everybody knew that you could.
Nobody bothers you.
Yeah, nobody. You can get up. You can take your phone. You can turn on or turn off the light.
Like settings and stuff.
You have guidance on what you can and cannot do in that 48 minutes. So maybe we should try that too once here.
And that brings up an important point that's a larger point, okay? It is okay for you to set boundaries with your family. If you need an hour, it's not too much to ask to set a boundary with your family that I need an hour for myself in the evening every day. Okay? That makes you a better dad, a better husband, a better person. If you're able to, and your family will adapt. Okay? A lot of times we feel guilty, right? We feel guilty, well, I'm supposed to be teaching my kid math or something. I don't want to take time for myself. But it's okay. I am giving you permission to take time for yourself every day at the expense of your family, to set a boundary around a certain amount of time for yourself. Because you are the only one in charge of your own soul, okay? Your family, you can lead your family, you can show them the path, you can show them the way to walk down the path, but ultimately it's up to them to walk the path. It's up to you to walk your own path. And that's an important point. I mean, what Mira was talking about, we're using religion as a kind of give ourselves cover to do that. But you don't even have to do that, even if it's not Samyik, if it's just regular meditation. I give you permission to take time for yourself. I know we got a lot of kids coming out of class, so thank you everybody for coming this week. Great discussion.
Thank you.
Good.